What's up, guys? Tucker Singer here, S&S Smithing. So today we're going to continue our coil spring hand tool series. We're going to make a fuller, and let's just get started with it. Alright guys, so to forge our fuller, I have a section of coil spring heating up in the forge currently. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a straightened out piece like this one here. This scrap piece is too short for what we need to do, plus it's got stress fractures in it. But we're going to upset our very end here a good bit, build up a good bit of density. Then we're going to forge it out slightly, similar to how we do our chisels. So if I go in here, here's an older fuller I made a long time ago to compare. So as you see, it's about the same thickness as the parent bar, but it's even wider. So that's from upsetting it. We're going to upset it on the anvil. We're going to draw it out into a rectangular section, and then that's going to basically be it. A lot of the shaping of this happens on the grinding process. So we're going to do that. We're going to grind a radius on the edge instead of a sharpened end, and that's going to forge out little grooves and fullers into things. It's going to be useful whenever we do a lot of our animal sculpting coming up, like our gator build. So I'm going to do that. I have this one. This is going to like a medium-sized one, and I have that little skinny one we used in the leaf ring video recently. So we're going to make a little bit of a heavier one now. So let's hop onto it, guys. So guys, first thing we're going to do is when I get the bar out of the forge, for our fuller here, we're going to start by upsetting the bar. Again, I'll try just by driving it down onto the anvil surface, holding it over the edge, and forging that material back in. We started with a thicker piece of spring than our previous few tools, so we're going to end up with a bigger fuller than these other ones that I've had. This one was in a video already for that blacksmith store challenge, where we got a crowbar from a Dollar Tree and forged out a bunch of tools from it. Saw that it was hardenable, so check that out. Card in the link up the top. And this one was one I forged a long time ago when I first started blacksmithing, before I ever had a channel. Alrighty guys, so we got a fair bit of our bar upset here. So as you saw me driving that down, every so often you'd see me hit these corners. That will keep everything centralized to the bar and also help keep everything in line evenly. Alright, because if I do this, just pop, 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 and just kind of keep it going, you're going to end up with one side a little bit off center from the other part of the bar. So forging those edges down pushes everything back into center. So now we have a nice thick lump down here that we can just start forging out our fuller from. So what we're going to do on that part is I'm going to come over to the edge of the anvil here, kind of half on, half off blows, and I'm just going to draw out a rectangular taper. Nothing too thin, because remember, this is going to be a hefty size fuller. Our other one here is about 1/4 inch, a little under 3/8 inch wide fuller. I want this one to be a little bit closer to 1/2 inch, so we're gonna forge that down, then that'll be our fuller. Now forge out our taper here. So, now that we have our rectangular shape pushed out, I want to upset just a little bit more. As you can see, we start getting a little bit of a bird's mouth standing up there, so we'll upset it again. That will also make our bottom wedge for our fuller thicker. So that's what we want. We want this to be nice and heavy. So one more set of upsetting, and then we'll be pretty much ready to cut this off the bar, straighten it out, and then get on to grinding. Alright guys, so we got her upset. We got it upset back enough to about our half-inch mark there. So now I'm just gonna clean up our taper here a little bit on the foot, on the anvil, and then we're gonna go ahead, knock down our corners a bit, straighten her out, and then cut her off on the hot cut. Then move on to grinding and heat treat. Alright guys, so we got her pretty well forged up here. So next thing we're going to do is we're just going to cut this off. So usually what we do is we throw in the hot cut hardy and we cut it off. But because this series is going to be beginners based, they may not have the materials to make a hot cut after a while, and most everybody can pick up an angle grinder here for real cheap. You can get them used for anywhere from like $5. You can pick them up from Harbor Freight, I think, for like 12 bucks. So these are very affordable. If you can afford to get a forge going, you can afford an angle grinder. So we're going to cut it off with the angle grinder with a cutoff wheel, and then we're going to clean it up with the angle grinder. Alrighty guys, so we got our bar marked out around about the length I want it. Got a brand new cutoff wheel on this. Now, again, the hardy is more efficient and less cleanup after the fact of cutting it, because we can cut to center, and just the way that the hot cut is set up, it kind of leaves a beveled edge, good for striking on the end. But we're going to do all of our cutting and grinding with an angle grinder here, just to get Alright, they're that simple. Just kind of let it through. Don't force these. Cutoff wheels are real thin and they'll explode if you pinch them or bind them or push too hard. So just kind of let the tool do the work. Cut your way through it. Let it come off. Try to wear a face shield or safety glasses if you're using these, just because of how likely they are to kind of just go away. So now that we got it cut off, I'm going to switch over to a 60 grit flat disc. So what this is, it's just layers of sandpaper epoxied in over themselves. That'll let us polish this up nicely and smooth everything up. So we'll hop onto that. I'll get it changed over and we'll be right back. So first off, we're going to clean up our striking end here. So I'm just going to switch over the wheel, polish this up, get it nice and ready, and then we're going to clean up our working end. Alright, so our striking end has been ground up here. We kind of pulled her out to a rough taper. That way it kind of directs our force down to our working end here. So next thing, we're just going to clean up our working end. Same idea, we're just going to clean up our flats a little bit, take off our corners, and then radius over where our fuller is. That way we can actually make a nice fuller with it. So Alrighty guys, so we got everything cleaned up. We have our nice radius on there. We cleaned up our striking end here. It's long enough to keep our hand up away from the heat where we need to be working it. So next thing we're going to do is we are going to heat treat this. So again, we're going to just normalize this. So we're going to thermal cycle it a few times here. Get the whole thing up non-magnetic. Let it cool down. And then we're going to get it heated all the way up. Critical temperature. We're going to quench off our working end in oil and let our striking end remain soft. That way we have a nice soft end to strike on. That way we don't got to worry about chipping anything. And then we have a tough working end. So again, this sort of a tool that's not actually cutting or anything, it's going to mostly be used on hot work and then slight refining on cold material. So you don't technically need to heat treat this. I prefer to. Just I'd rather something be a little bit more durable than not enough. So I'm going to thermal cycle this and we'll come back right whenever we're going to harden it. So guys, as a mock-up, whenever we go to harden this, we're going to quench our working end into the oil. We'll pull it out, let it cool off. I'll throw it back in the forge after I shine up the front end of it. Back striking end first. That will let the heat run back up and temper off our end. Now we're going to want it to be around a straw starting to get blue on this because we want an impact, not overly hard. Alright? So, touched her up with the flat disc real quick to get her shining again. Then we're going to throw our striking end in the forge and let our colors run back up to the tip. So once our end here starts changing into a straw and like a bluish color starting to creep up, not quite purple, we want that royal blue and straw coming up through. We're going to quench it again, lock that in, and leave it in the oil and let that striking end air cool back to handleable, and then we'll shine up our working end again with the flat disc. That way it's a nice polished finish for our working end. So if you guys can see, I don't know how well the camera can pick it up, but we got straw on the end, then blew a little bit up, so we're going to cool that, quench that off, lock it in. Alright guys, so our fuller is done, as you can see. I let it cool off in the vise the rest of the way here, so it's still a little warm on the back end for comfortably handling it barehanded. So I just shined the end back up with the flap disc here. We still have a nice clean radius, no cracks. The slight dimpling from the scales back here isn't going to affect anything. Really, this radius is all that matters on the tool. We still have our striking end, and because we let it get nice and warm, like stay warm and then cool off slowly, this should still be soft while our working end is still nice and warm. So we're going to go ahead, let that finish cooling off. We're going to take our little rebar fella that we've been using on all of our little tools on. We're just going to go ahead and fuller down a little ridge right down here from like the little mouth hole we punched straight down. And I think that'd be a nice little way to test out our new fuller. So we'll get the forge fired back up, let this guy heat up, get him down there, and then fuller out a nice little kind of necktie for him. So let's get it. Well guys, so you can see our fuller groove right in there that goes right up to his mouth that we had in there. So there's our next spot in our coil spring hand tool series completed. Now we have a fuller. So nice, very useful tool. It helps for sectioning off material. It helps with like detail work like this. If you want to do like sculptures and things like that, it helps give you detail, help mark out ridges, all kinds of stuff. And again, with the rounded surface, make sure you round over your corners too. That way you don't get a sharp bite in where it's at on the very back edge here. So pretty simple, guys. Signing off, Tucker Singer here, SNET Smithing. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And let me know what other tools you'd like to see done in this series. Here's our fuller, all nicely done up. Heat treated, so our end didn't get deformed. Our striking end held up fairly well. So, I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Remember, forge your fate.